One, two, three. All right, I kind of ran out of time for this week to do something longer, so I'm just going to do a quick recap of some movies I saw at the theater this summer that I enjoyed a lot. And since we're starting with two horror movies, I'm going to start with the spooky movie lighting, and we'll see if I remember to change that. There will be no spoilers in this video. We'll try to keep it quick. First one, Longlegs. Here's the description of Longlegs. In pursuit of a serial killer, an FBI agent uncovers a series of occult clues that she must solve to end his terrifying killing spree. It's more of a vibes movie than it is a straight-up scary movie, in my mind. That's not to say that it's unreasonable to find it scary or whatever. Certainly atmosphere and the creep factor can be a big factor. But to me, its main goal is atmosphere, not out and out like jump scares or terrifying specific moments. To me, it's more of a additive thing over the film. And that's fine with me, because I love some of Oz's other stuff. He likes this style. So if you like some of his other movies, then this may be up your alley. I love Micah Monroe's performance. She's got a very distinct quality to her, which is reinforced by the way the character is written, and the way she is makes sense, I think. Love the way she comes across. Feels very at home with the movie. And the movie itself has a very, I would call it, hostile feel to it. It feels somewhat like distanced, like in the way it's shot, from characters where conversations tend to be shot kind of far away. The camera is a little bit robotic. It doesn't feel very personal. Like when the camera's following people, it's, super precise with the way they're moving sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't even care at all about the people in frame. It goes to focus on something else. It's even got some great aesthetic qualities. It's not incredibly colorful. Rather, I was thinking a lot of the aesthetic highlights are almost like the way some of the lighting and stuff like that is layered, and some of the sets, like for instance, Lee's house. I was a big fan of the aesthetic of that, even though it's kind of an odd house itself. But yeah, some other scenes, some little piercing beams of light, like in that barn, look wonderful as well. I think the themes and some of the messages stuff in this movie might be a little bit underbaked. It seems that they're a little bit less important to the movie than the atmosphere, which, good for the movie for sticking to its guns, but I think sometimes some of the actual text gets a little bit messy. May be less important to some people than others. To me, I enjoyed it overall, and I like the atmosphere, and it's a great experience, and I love being able to see original IP horror movies on screen, so I recommend this one. I give it a 65. Next is Oddity. This is a horror movie from sophomore director Damian McCarthy. I loved his first feature, Caveat, and I'm glad to see him get a little bit of a theater run for his second movie, and I hope he continues to get more of an audience as he goes on. A psychic medium attempts to uncover the truth behind her sister's murder at the site of the crime. This movie is going more for direct scares than, say, Longlegs. There is atmosphere for sure, there's plenty of it, but there are more specific moments I could point to in this movie that are like scares, like traditional scares, as opposed to Longlegs, I think, where it's more of a increasing creeping dread. Information flows really nicely through this movie, everything's measured out well, and we get events coming on pretty consistently and new details and developments. The main haunted object is so nice and detailed, unique sort of presentation to it. The main house location that we spend a lot of time in is also very unique in terms of the way it's put together and some of the decorations. The little ways that color is scattered throughout it. Great location. It's even got a surprising little humorous streak to it. It does not, I think, distract from the atmosphere, from the scares, but it is nice that the movie is a little bit dynamic. Not every movie has to be. Some movies can get away with being extremely crushing, but I think this movie benefits from having just a tiny bit of levity running throughout it. And there are a couple really nice moments that are enhanced by editing and some really, really handy cuts. I do think the villain stuff is quite weak, and that is like the main detractor, because I think it really takes the air out of some scenes. And I also think sometimes it feels a little bit generic, a little bit flat. Like it feels like he's almost all the way to making like a great horror movie, but it just needs a little bit more polish in my mind. But I would recommend this one. It's a fun horror movie. I have absolutely no regrets watching it, and I hope people are able to support him so he can continue to get funding for another movie. I give this one a 60. Next is going to be Trap. Trap is an M. Night movie, so bring in whatever expectations you will. You'll probably feel that they're met. A father and teen daughter attend a pop concert, where they realize they're at the center of a dark and sinister event. I love like 60% of this movie. I think the part of it that's concerned with this sort of cat and mouse game, this puzzle, this gearing up and, subtle obtaining of information, all that stuff I really love. But unfortunately, that's not the entire movie. And I think the movie would benefit a lot from being significantly shorter and not going some places it does. M. Night's main skill at this point as a director is his visual eye and some of his composition and style. And I think that's a strength here. Not a gigantic one, but there are absolutely notable positives. From the cinematography, from some of the framing, and some of the aesthetics. The concert looks really nice. There are changing aesthetics for different songs and different dancers and all that stuff. So it feels accurate for a concert, I think, and that stuff is all pleasant. And additionally, the crowd is used for some nice, like, sea of foam light type of shots that look quite nice. The framing is pretty fun sometimes. There are some head-on shots of, like, Josh Hartnett just, like, staring into your soul that I think are pretty effective for giving, like, this sort of uncomfortable feeling. There is also, like, this fun motif of these faces framed, like, half in frame and then everything else this way, type of thing that has some nice thematic tie-ins, I think. His daughter plays a significant part, M. Night's daughter, that is, as the singer of the concert. She also wrote, I believe, all of the music, at least all the pop music used during the concert, as a sort of collaboration with her dad, which I don't have a problem with, or like any kind of nepotism, whatever. I mean, it's his movie, especially since it's self-funded, like he can do what he wants with it. And she does fine. I'm not a pop fan, so I can't really speak or give an informed opinion as to how good the music is, but I didn't mind it. And she does an okay job as the pop star, although I do think she's probably given too much to do for her character's definition and maybe for her own abilities, but it's not the worst thing. If you like his movies, you'll probably like this one. Even if you don't like his movies, I think it's a fun mystery, and there are enough interesting things to follow, I think, that most people should be able to enjoy themselves if they're looking to. And I give this one a 65. Last, we've got Thelma. When 93-year-old Thelma Post gets duped by a phone scammer pretending to be her grandson, she sets out on a treacherous quest across the city to reclaim what was taken from her. And this movie is just a gem. It's just a lot of fun. Very creative, very fun, sort of food for thought about the elderly, both of their limitations and their capacity for life at the same time. One of the things it does best, and one of the most fun things it does, really, is integrating these, sorts of comparisons to Mission Impossible. And it's really woven throughout in a lot of ways. It's music, stunts, sometimes these over-the-top epic camera shots, and even, the extremely anamorphic look of the later Mission Impossible sequels. And it provides like this interesting contrast between like a traditional view of this big epic, action movie versus the more subdued but still impressive reality of what these elderly people are doing on screen. And it's just a lot of fun. And it's surprisingly thought-provoking and fairly sweet, I think, for everything it's trying to do. I think it really succeeds at a lot of things quite well. It's also got a great sense of humor. I think it took a little bit to find its footing. I didn't love many of the jokes early on, but I think it got in a groove. So there's a lot of good humor to enjoy, I think. The main actress, June Squibb, is 94 years old right now, so, still in her 90s at the time of filming. And she did her own stunts. It's great, I think, to get some mainstream movies that, well, I guess this isn't that mainstream, but to get some movies that, give a little more exposure to the elderly, because, of course, they're still people. They're clearly still capable of things and enjoyment. And I think it's great to have a movie like this that gives them a voice, I mean, they need one just as much as everyone else. Also, Parker Posey is in it, and she's great. But yeah, this movie is a ton of fun. I recommend it for, a unique take on the action, heist, adventure, genre. I'm certain you haven't seen a movie quite like this before, so absolutely recommend checking it out. This is my favorite of the bunch, and I give this one an 80. So next week, hopefully I'll have more time to actually do film movements. I promise I will do the 80s. It'll probably be a short video because there's only a few of them I haven't gotten to yet, so hopefully that'll be next week. Fingers crossed. And I'll see you in the next video.